When I think back to that summer, it almost feels like a movie. I had been dating Emily for a little over a year, and things between us were going better than I ever could have imagined. She was funny, smart, ambitious, and she had this quiet charm about her that made me feel comfortable in ways I didn't even know I needed. I was 24 at the time, still working part-time at a bookstore while finishing up my graduate degree in history, and she was 23, just starting her teaching career at an elementary school. We spent most weekends together, either at my apartment or at her family's place a couple of towns over. That particular weekend, Emily had invited me to her aunt's house out in the countryside. Her aunt, Claire, was in her early 40s, recently divorced, and had this sprawling, old-style home that looked like something out of a magazine. It had wide wooden porches, white shutters, and an enormous backyard with a garden that seemed to go on forever. Emily explained that Aunt Claire loved hosting people because the house felt too big for just her, and I could tell Emily had a soft spot for her aunt. When we arrived, Claire greeted us warmly. She had a kind of glow about her, a mixture of maturity and friendliness. I could see the resemblance between her and Emily right away, though Claire carried herself differently, more confident, more seasoned, with the air of someone who had already seen a lot in life and come out stronger. She hugged Emily tightly, then turned to me with a smile. "You must be David," she said, extending her hand. "Emily's told me all about you." I laughed nervously, wondering what exactly Emily had told her. "Hopefully only the good things." "Only the good things," Claire replied with a chuckle. "Come inside. Make yourselves at home." That first night was easy and relaxed. We had dinner together. Claire cooked a huge spread of roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, grilled vegetables, and a homemade berry pie for dessert. Afterward, we sat in the living room with glasses of wine, talking about everything from books to movies to stories from Emily's childhood. I enjoyed listening to Claire. She had this way of telling stories that drew everyone in. Later, when Emily and I went upstairs to the guest room, she whispered as she climbed into bed, "See, I told you Aunt Claire was amazing." "She is," I admitted. "She makes you feel like you've known her forever." The next morning, the incident happened, and to this day, it still makes my heart race when I think about it. I had woken up early. Emily was still asleep, curled up in the blankets, and I decided to take a quick shower before breakfast. I grabbed my towel, padded down the hallway, and found the bathroom. It was one of those old but well-kept bathrooms, with white tiles, a clawfoot tub, and a shower curtain that had little blue seashells printed on it. I turned on the water, stepped in, and let the steam wash over me. It was quiet, just the sound of water hitting the porcelain and the faint creak of the old pipes. I was halfway through rinsing my hair when I suddenly heard the door creak open. At first, I thought it must be Emily, maybe coming in to grab something. But when I peeked through the curtain, my heart nearly stopped. Standing there, holding a basket of folded towels, was Claire. She froze. I froze. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," she exclaimed, quickly averting her eyes and turning toward the sink. "I didn't know anyone was in here. The door wasn't locked." My face turned bright red. It's fine. Totally fine. I should have locked it." She kept her gaze firmly on the towels in her hands, but I could tell she was flustered too. "I'll just leave these here. Sorry again, David." Before I could say anything else, she set the towels on the counter and slipped out the door, closing it behind her. I leaned against the wall of the shower, heart pounding. I had just been walked in on by my girlfriend's aunt, no less. My mind raced with embarrassment. What if she thought I was careless? What if she told Emily? After finishing my shower in record time, I wrapped the towel around my waist and made my way back to the guest room. Emily was sitting up in bed, scrolling through her phone. "Morning," she said with a smile. "You were up early." "Yeah," I muttered, trying to sound casual. "Just grabbed a quick shower." I didn't mention what had happened. At least, not then. I figured it was just an accident, nothing more, and I didn't want to make things awkward by bringing it up. But what shocked me was what happened later that day. After breakfast, Emily went into town to meet up with an old friend for coffee. Claire stayed behind, and I offered to help her with some yard work since the house and garden seemed to require constant upkeep. We spent the next couple of hours trimming hedges, pulling weeds, and watering flowers. The sun was hot, and by the time we were done, both of us were sweaty and tired. Claire suggested we take a break on the porch with some iced tea. As we sat down, she glanced at me with a sheepish smile. About this morning, I immediately felt my cheeks heat up again. Oh, don't worry about it. Totally my fault. I should have locked the door. She laughed lightly. Well, I should have knocked. Let's just call it even. I smiled back, relieved she wasn't making it a big deal. But then she said something I didn't expect. You know, David, you handled it really well. Most people would have freaked out, maybe even gotten upset. But you stayed calm and respectful. That says a lot about your character. I blinked, a little taken aback. Thanks. I guess I just didn't want to make it more awkward than it already was. Claire nodded thoughtfully. Emily is lucky. You're a good guy. I can see why she's happy with you. Those words stuck with me. Not because of what happened in the bathroom, but because it felt like she genuinely meant them. It wasn't a casual compliment people throw around. It was the kind of thing someone says when they've really been paying attention. Over the next couple of days, I noticed Claire and I talking more. Not in a strange or inappropriate way, but in a way that surprised me. She asked about my studies, my goals, my family, and I found myself opening up to her in ways I didn't usually do with adults older than me. She had this way of listening that made you feel understood. By the time Emily and I left at the end of the weekend, I realized something shocking. What could have been a horribly awkward moment had somehow turned into a bridge. Instead of ruining things, that embarrassing shower incident had made Claire and me closer, almost like friends. Later, when Emily and I were driving back to the city, she smiled and said, "You know, Aunt Claire really likes you. She told me you're one of the most genuine people she's met in a long time." Hearing that left me stunned. I never expected that what began as a mortifying accident would lead to something positive. But life is funny like that. Looking back now, I realized the real shock wasn't just the moment Claire walked in, it was what came after. It was discovering how unexpected situations can reveal character, how embarrassment can turn into trust, and how relationships, whether with a partner or their family, are built on the small, honest ways we handle life's awkward surprises. That weekend taught me something I'll never forget. Sometimes the most shocking moments are not the accidents themselves, but the way they end up shaping the connections we carry forward.